Call the meeting to order for the Board of Control of October 15th.
Good morning, everyone. Calling the roll for the Tuesday, October 15th Board of Control meeting. It is now 11 a.m. We have Nan Baker, Dale Miller, Trevor McAleer serving as an alternate for Dan Brady, Mike Chambers serving as an alternate for Mike Dever, Dennis Kennedy serving as an alternate for one last time for Armin Budish.
Here.
And Lenore Lockett. We have a quorum.
Okay, if everybody will take a moment to review the minutes of the meeting from last week, October 7th. Are there any comments or corrections to the minutes? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the minutes. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval of the minutes indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The minutes are approved. We now go to the section of public comment. Is there any public comment?
No public comment at this time.
And I believe there is one tabled item. Is that correct?
Yes, there is.
Okay.
First tabled item, item number BC 2019-677, Department of Information Technology, submitting an amendment to a contract with Rimini Street, Inc. for maintenance and support services for the SAP Human Capital Management R3 system. And it's for the period November 6th, 2012 through October 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to October 30th, 2020, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $78,302.
Good morning, board members. Dennis Sullivan, Department of IT. This was tabled originally for the county's legal, Jonathan McGorry, to get with Rimini's legal. They had extensive conversations over a period of time. Anyway, this is amendment to keep the SAP functionality, primarily involving payroll, available to us until ERP does roll out.
Thank you. Any questions? Councilman Miller?
I didn't fully hear the part about why it was tabled in the first place. Could you go over that again?
There was legal language in regards to automatic renewals and the period being covered that the executive had expressed to legal. Jonathan had extensive conversation back and forth with them and their legal department, and the final product was the same dollar amount, the same time period. Just language.
Okay.
Any other questions? Councilwoman Baker?
Just to clarify that this will no longer be needed once the ERP is installed? And
That is correct. Whenever that is sufficiently up and running
and the projected time for this work is, let's see here, this is for payroll or what? The first date to be ending for ERP is April 1st.
I'm not part of any of the ERP rollout.
So how do you know that this will be needed no longer after the 10/30/2020?
I'm not here telling you that this is absolutely the last amendment.
Okay.
I'm just telling you that this is needed until ERP is rolled out completion.
If it were to end sooner, say the ERP was to be installed sooner than expected, would we not need all of the $78,000?
That was one of the blocks in legal
It says
too.
not to exceed. So
Correct.
I would think that would mean that if we only needed 50 of the 78.
I don't want to answer on behalf of legal. I do know that was one of the stumbling blocks about the out clause language. And I know that Rimini didn't want to do less than a year at one point.
Have anything to say about that? Does not to exceed mean it could be less than that?
Not to exceed is a total sum. You're talking about if it comes up short or earlier?
If it comes up earlier, we
Right.
don't need the entire 78.
Typically, that's how we write them. I do not, and I'm not familiar with how this one works. And the little bit that I do know about it, I think that could be an issue, and I would rather defer to Jonathan McGorry to get back to you simply because I didn't write it and I don't want to give the wrong answer. And for purpose of the record, this is Jared Zibertowski, Assistant Law Director. So I can happily follow up, but I do believe that was an issue that went back and forth.
Because it's such a fluid ending date that we've changed quite a few times, and Here we are, April 1st. I think the absolute deadline now is the end of 2020. How did you determine that this amount is what you needed by the end of 10/30/2020, and maybe we would even not need it?
The 10/30 date, Nan, takes us in line with the expiration of our existing. So that's that 1-year window, if you're wondering how that window was built.
I'm sure it's needed, but if you could let us know maybe a little more detail after the fact, just so we know whether or not we're approving 78,300 as a firm number, or it could be less, or are you anticipating that you're going to come back? How did the contract read?
I will follow up with Assistant Law Director McGorry immediately and get you guys an answer as soon
I
as I can.
appreciate it.
I would think, Councilwoman Baker, that payroll's been deferred multiple times. That's pretty much going to be the last major component, just because of the complexity. So I would assume that you'll probably use the majority of this contract money, just based on history.
And given that I think we're going all the way to the end of 2020, you may be back for a couple of months.
Maybe. That's why I'm not telling you it's the last, yeah. That's an unknown.
Any details you can offer, we'd appreciate.
Okay. Any other questions related to this? No one? Seeing none, I will, Mr. McAleer?
I mean, the current contract does go through October 31st, so I don't know if you would want to wait for the responses. It's not,
A couple of weeks.
yeah.
How urgent are we in need of this? Nothing's been done, nothing's been paid. 2 weeks probably isn't going to matter. Yeah, thanks.
Janelle Green, Department of IT. Sorry, I should give you some warning. Janelle Green, Department of IT. So again, as Dennis said, one of the disputes was the end date. So we did try to work with the vendor to have it be done and concluded within 6 months. But the vendor required a 1-year language for this contract. So it is our expectation that it'll be the whole duration of until October, which also, if let's say if payroll goes live, we would have to have dual systems just to make sure the systems are working and the data is to where we need it. So it would be going on for an extended period of time, and also to account for the transition of the data into the data lake for the history. So we do anticipate we'll use the entire amount of the contract. If it goes beyond that, we'll be back, but hopefully not.
Given my, work with the ERP and following it, I understand everything you're saying as far as probably needing more time and more money. I just want to make sure in this contract that you're asking us to approve that the 78,000 could possibly be less. I mean, a good case scenario, we really get
No,
this thing
it is a fixed price. That's the $78,000 we will need to pay for this 1-year amendment.
even if it states not to exceed?
Yes, it does state not to exceed, but it is a fixed price. We would not be able to cancel it sooner than that. That's one of the languages portions that Jonathan McGorry was trying to work out with their legal team, but they did require us to carry it out for the full year. And given that this was hopefully the last time we'll have to come to you for this, we didn't want to have to go and do an RFP for some service that will be eventually transitioning out.
And the ERP leaders, they're all suggesting and agreeing that this is in fact something that we need to do in order to keep it going.
Yes, and those people that actually are doing the operations. So they want to make sure we have this support and maintenance.
Every time we add more money because of delays, we need to keep track of that. This is actually needed because of a delay.
Right.
We're talking about dual systems, extending time.
Right. So in terms of the IT department, we do have a listing of all the contracts that we would assume that will be going away once this gets implemented. So we do have some other items that we didn't move forward because we figured that we can do some workaround, so we wouldn't have to bring them up for an amendment. But we do have a list of all the contracts that would be ending once ERP is implemented.
Okay, go ahead.
Mr. McAleer?
So Janelle, just to follow up, so in most of our contracts, we have that 30-day termination clause or whatever that time frame.
Correct.
This one, they refuse to allow for that clause to be inserted in there?
That is correct.
So then, if the ERP project gets delayed even again sometime next year, are they gonna, I know it's a what-if scenario, but are they gonna mandate that we extend the contract for another year, even if we don't need it for another year?
I don't know. At this point, they did require a year, but those will have to be a negotiation moving forward. Then also, if we know that there's something that we have a hard date as far as when is ERP is transitioning out, we can just say what kind of maintenance can we do in-house if we can, and then in order to be able to keep the SAP functioning.
My concern there is to your point you made earlier about needing to run dual systems even after we go live for some period of time. And I'm a little surprised that the county agreed to move forward without a termination clause in there. I mean, that's pretty much standard in most of all.
Right, and we tried to implement that standard language, and they refused. They went back and forth for a good while, which is why this was tabled. And unfortunately, it did not. We cannot make headway.
Do you know from, in terms of dollar amount, is this the same amount for a year that we were paying, or is it
Dennis is
increased?
pulling it up. We'll have to get back to you on that one.
And then is this contract, is this for, and it might not be, is this for the staff that are usually here
No.
in the county? Okay.
This is that's the unified contract. This is for the support and maintenance of the licenses.
Oh, for the license part, okay.
To answer, on the backup, it has ending 10/30/19, 74,572.
Okay, so it's a right. So it's a small incremental, typical increases then.
I have a question
Councilman Miller?
that hopefully Director Kennedy can answer. And the question is whether the ERP systems that are required to be in place to replace this contract are contained in what has been referred to as the core implementation, which is the last of which is supposed to go live on April 1st of 2020. Or will it require elements that are included in what's being referred to as Phase 2, which will be implemented between April 1st, 2020 and the end of the year?
Councilman, my understanding is that payroll will probably be included in Phase 2, just because of the complexity and the problems they've had with the GHR in terms of using SAP and continuing that on. So I would estimate that payroll will probably not be moving forward till mid-year next year.
So my question is the same one that Trevor was raising as to whether 10/30/2020 is sufficient. We don't want to be a couple months short and have to pay another $78,000 for a whole nother year. If we think 10/30/2020 is not going to be long enough, we'd be better off to amend it right now and take it to the end of the year or something like that.
That might affect the price though, correct? Because it's on a 12-month
Yeah, it's from the
license.
12-month cycle, so it ends on October 30th of every year. So if we can move forward with this one, and we'll go and talk to the company. We've been talking to them even over the holiday weekend and see what we can do in terms of an extension of time, so that way we can get this going and keep this moving along so we can get this executed.
I may just add, I'm really concerned to hear about payroll not being finished by April 1st, because the last meetings I had were only the reporting and the incidental type of things that could be taken out of the ERP without having the core of it not being completed. Payroll is, and we didn't finish at the end of this year, and we're upset about it not being done by the end of this year, because that means we're going to a new year with payroll not to be included in April 1st. We need to know for sure where we stand on that, because I really thought that that was why we postponed it to April 1st. And only the, I don't want to say non-essential, but only the reporting and type of things that you would get from having the core done would be done then after April 1st and ending at the end of the year. So unless things have changed, which we're probably going to hear this week, if you can also, I think that's an important piece of asking for more money to continue, whether or not payroll's included.
Right. So I sent a message over to Jack to get that information. We don't work in the ERP, so we wouldn't be able to answer that.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. McAleer.
Mr. Chair, if it's possible, I mean, I would prefer, maybe we could hold it for until next week just to get that answer back, particularly what Councilman Miller was asking in Nan, because I see a scenario where we're potentially going to have to go beyond 10/30/2020, but if they're going to say we need to do a full year contract, I think that's a different discussion with this contract as well.
Is there a consensus here to table the item again until next week? I'm happy with that.
Okay.
Andrew, we
don't
don't
have
need
to
to take
vote.
an action. We're just going to table, we'll hold it till next week.
Correct.
If the IT folks can get back to representatives of the council staff for the answers.
Like,
Take a donut too, Ben.
for your efforts.
Yes. Okay, so are there any other tabled items? Yes, oh, I'm sorry.
But on that same item, I think we got to go back to Rimini Street and tell them that we can't forecast with certainty when our need for this contract is going to end, and that we need a better arrangement, that it's got to end on a year block at a time. You know, I'm okay with the October 31st end date for this round, but I think we need their commitment that if we need a couple months, we're going to be able to work something out, and I think we need to try to get that up front before we agree to give them the additional year.
Okay, thank you. So are there any other tabled items
No other
today?
tabled items.
So we can.
We're moving on to new items for review. Item number BC 2019-738, Fiscal Office, Office of the Treasurer, submitting an amendment to a contract with F&E Check Protector Company doing business as F&E Payment Pros for licensing, support, training, and maintenance services on the digital remittance processing system, and is for the period October 1st, 2014 through September 30th, 2019, to extend the time period to September 30th, 2020, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $11,245.
Hi, Sharnice Wilson with the Treasury Office. This agreement is for the maintenance software to support our remittance systems. So it allows for us to receive physical checks and scan them into the system and electronically send them to the bank. So this is for maintenance, licensing, support, and any upgrades.
Questions? Mr. McAleer?
Is this the same system that produces receipts when individuals come in and pay their property taxes?
No, I don't know. It's not the same.
Okay. Are related to this particular software program though, was there any changes or upgrades that the treasurer's office may have requested due to the internal audit?
No, I know there was a question with this one. No, so to my understanding, this does not address anything that was brought up in the IG's report. That was for the cash handling portion. From my understanding, the remittance process and the actual receiving the checks and scanning them into the system wasn't addressed in that report at all.
Councilwoman Baker?
I believe in that report, though, it not only referenced actual cash, but also checks. There was, and we're talking about people coming in, paying their property tax maybe for $2,000 or $3,000, maybe more, maybe less, and that cash handling system, and cash is cash, actual cash or cash in the form of a check, needed some improvements. Is that part of what you're asking for? Is that what this does, is take that check that's given over the counter to pay for something that they owe, whether it's property tax or child support or whatever it is that they're paying on? Is that what this cash handling machine does in the treasurer's office?
Well, with this machine, it's literally just to take the checks and make a image of it. So I don't believe it's the same issue that was brought up in the report.
I can help you, Councilwoman. It's basically when somebody comes in with a physical check.
Right.
As opposed to having this process in place, someone would have to go to the bank, transmit those checks, get them deposited. This is similar to if anybody has image capturing on their phone. It takes a picture of the check and then it's electronically transmitted to the bank for deposit. That we hold on to there's a retention period for the actual physical paper check. And then once that deposit clears in the bank, we then get rid of the hard copy checks so that they're not redeposited. Is that?
Was there, I guess in this Inspector General's report, was there a time where we weren't scanning these checks and they were waiting to be scanned? Is that still part of this? Is this, I guess I'm just asking if this machine that we're asking for is part of that process that we found needed improvement.
I mean, the process, my understanding of the process is that the time in between when the check is presented and the time that it gets imaged was a concern of the Inspector General. Where does that check go? I believe those controls were appropriately adjusted to correct that. Okay. So now there's a process in supervision of where the checks go. But this actual machine just effects the transmission of the deposit to the bank.
All right, thank you. And because it's related, even though it's mechanically it's done a little differently, I noted here that you said there was a written cash handling policy now updated to ensure that all of that is being done correctly. We have not received that report. Can you, I know the Inspector General has been asking for it. Can you make sure that we receive that?
Sure, of course.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved. Thank you.
We would like to go back to the tabled item. Janelle Green has some additional information she would like to share with the board members.
Thank you. So just when communicating with Jack, he has assured me that payroll will be up April 1st. So this will give us the opportunity to have the two systems run parallel in the event there's, making sure the data is correct between the two. Okay. Thank you.
Okay, still table it till next week?
I still think we should get the response from the vendor, though, just in case, because we've been a little delayed on a couple big ERPs.
Mm-hmm.
Moving on to the next item, item BC 2019-739, Office of Procurement and Diversity, submitting an amendment to a contract with Periscope Holdings, Inc. for maintenance and support on the By-Speed online system. And it's for the period December 1st, 2017 through November 30th, 2019, to extend the time period to November 30th, 2021, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $65,975.
Lenora Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. We're requesting your approval of a 2-year agreement with Periscope Holdings for the By-Speed system. This is our procurement system that issues the purchase orders and requisitions and also does the electronic bidding for informal bidding. This is a 2-year agreement. It does have a 30-day termination clause, at which time, once 30 days is notice is given, whatever fees have been paid will be prorated that are remaining on the contract term period. This is a increase of approximately $1,220 over the past 2-year contract, which was for the same 2-year period, for same duration of a 2-year period. And we're requesting your approval. This system will be replaced by the ERP system once phase 2 is completed and up and sufficiently running, and the data lake project has been completed.
Okay, thank you. Any questions regarding this item? Hearing Councilman Miller?
Does this contract have the standard out clause so that if we don't need the contract for the full duration that we can end it early?
Yes, Lenora Lockett. The contract has the standard 30-day termination clause for convenience.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved.
Next item, BC 2019-740, Department of Health and Human Services, Cuyahoga Job and Family Services, submitting an amendment to a contract with Catholic Charities Corporation for pre-employment screening services for Ohio Works First applicants. And it's for the period July 1st, 2016 through December 31st, 2019, to extend the time period to June 30th, 2020, and for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $267,265.
Thank you. Good morning. Chris Alexander, Department of Health and Human Services. On behalf of Job and Family Services, we are seeking to amend the contract with Catholic Charities Corporation for 6 months, the period of January 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2020. We are seeking to continue our pre-employment screening services as required under the Ohio Administrative Code. We are also in the process of issuing an RFP for these services. We anticipate a new provider on July 1st. 2020. This service is funded 100% through TANF dollars. The purpose of the pre-employment screen is to evaluate applicants' job readiness and identify potential barriers to employment before we assign them to work activities.
Thank you. Are there any questions related to this item? Councilman Miller?
Trevor.
Welcome back.
Hi, thank you.
You just said that you anticipate a new provider. Does that mean Catholic Charities Corporation?
It could be Catholic
Okay.
Charities. My sense is we only had 2 respondents the last time in 2015, and Catholic Charities was one of them. My sense is they'll throw their hat in the ring.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Next item, BC 2019-741, Department of Health and Human Services, Community Initiatives Division, Office of Early Childhood, submitting an amendment to a contract with Cuyahoga County District Board of Health for the Newborn Home Visiting Program. And it's for the period January 1st, 2018 through December 31st, 2019 for additional funds in the amount not to exceed $66,923.04.
Good morning, Marcos Cortez with the Office of Early Childhood, Invest in Children. Again, this is a contract amendment with the Board of Health for our newborn home visiting program. The newborn home visiting program is where a registered nurse goes to the home to visit a mom who has recently returned from the hospital after giving birth. She conducts a health assessment of the baby and the mom and does a safety check of the sleep environment and the home.
Any questions? I know I asked this the last time it came up, but we don't have any relationship with the Cleveland Clinic?
We don't. There's not enough. Through UH and Metro are the main hospitals, the birthing hospitals that we provide services to. There are not enough births, or they have a program already in place for home visiting.
Okay. Any questions from anyone? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a donut, please.
Next item is a two-part item, item number BC 2019-742, Office of the Medical Examiner. A, submitting an RFP exemption on requisition 45701, which will result in an award recommendation to Thermo Electron North America LLC in the amount not to exceed $137,482.83 for maintenance services on a liquid chromatograph tandem mass spectrometer, and it's for the period August 1st, 2019 through July 31st, 2022. And B, recommending the award in connection with said RFP exemption.
There's going to be a test chamber, so pay attention. So this is a maintenance agreement for the liquid chromatograph in the toxicology lab. So unlike gas chromatography that was the standard for so long, the liquid chromatography allows us to see molecules that are much smaller, which most of the novel opioids that are in the illicit drug market now are members of. So it's very important that we're able to detect them. The maintenance agreement is required because the warranty expired on August 1st. We did start this process in May. I know that it's late. We had originally tried, this is a 3-year agreement, we had tried to schedule it so that the other machines that we have that are currently under warranty but will be expiring during the life of this contract, we were trying to find a way to work with the vendor to have them added to this maintenance agreement as they expired. Unfortunately, they were not able to do that, but they consumed quite a bit of time trying to figure that out. And then they actually had a fire at their facility that we were working with, and so we had to resubmit this contract once we got new copies, new quotes to them. They got back a signed copy to us on August 20th, and then we had to resubmit it as an exemption because it was late. So that's why we're doing this in October now.
Okay, any questions? Hearing none. Oh, Mr. McAleer.
Just one of the advanced questions was asking a question about the sole source, or potentially could it be a sole source versus RFP exemption? Are they the only vendor that can provide this service?
Yes.
And then
they're the manufacturer, so.
So then why don't we process this as a sole source?
Because it's late.
So late contracts can't be sole source?
Lenore Lockett, Office of Procurement and Diversity. The county sole source process requires that we post that our intent to make this purchase as a sole source, so that vendors that want to contest or feel that they can provide the service or goods can provide an opportunity to contest it. If we receive a viable protest or disagreement with their sole source intent, then the county code states that we will do a procurement process, we will do a bid.
But from the county code's perspective, it still technically could be processed as a sole source. It would require an extra step if a vendor.
A bidding process, so again, if we needed to backdate the time period, if it's, we don't do bids for services or goods or time periods that have already expired.
Okay.
Passed.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Councilwoman Baker?
Regarding the warranty, I see I've noted here that no services or no funds expended in equipment continues. Now, how is it under warranty if we hadn't approved it till now and it was an 8-1 contract?
The warranty went into effect when it was purchased. The warranty expired on August 1st.
And the warranty will begin, the new warranty?
The maintenance agreement for that machine is dated for August 1st, so that there's no lapse.
And because it's their delay, they certainly understand not being paid until now.
Correct, but we haven't had any maintenance requirements on it yet. But.
Haven't. Okay, thank you.
Councilwoman Miller?
So, if we haven't had any maintenance problems, why are we paying them for 2 months plus? We haven't had any maintenance problems. Why don't we date it, for example, for 10-1 or 10-15?
My understanding is that the equipment is in use. So any maintenance issues that may come up could be related to any of the equipment use since August 1st.
Mm-hmm.
So the maintenance agreement is not whether or not they come out and do maintenance or not. It's for the life of that contract. The machine has been in constant use. It's just we've been fortunate that it hasn't required any specific maintenance needs yet.
So what you're saying is that if if some problem occurred on August 15th, but you don't find out about it till later, that you need this coverage to have been in effect on August 15th when the problem occurred so that it can be covered and
Correct.
Get maintenance.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Any other questions? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Mackler. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved.
Next item, BC 2019-743, Office of the Medical Examiner, recommending a sole source award on requisition 46198 and enter into a contract with Thermo Electron North America LLC in the amount not to exceed $13,113.80 for a Q Exactive Focus Application Support Training Services. And it's for the period October 15th, 2019 through December 31st, 2019.
Hugh Shannon Medical Examiner's Office. So the Q Exactive is an even more precise instrument that had been purchased last year, and we will be conducting trainings for staff, and this is a grant covered training.
Questions on this item?
Yes.
Councilwoman Miller?
What is the 2018 Covered L grant, and how much money did we receive and how much money is left?
I will have to talk to the grant staff about how much money is left. Covered L is the basic DNA lab improvement fund at the Department of Justice. We've been receiving funds anywhere between $175,000 and $275,000. I will have to find out exactly what the current award is and what is left, yes.
So this is federal?
Yes,
Federal Department of Justice.
correct.
Okay.
Mary Beth?
I'd
don't have the exact amount in front of me, but I can tell you that we did just submit again to actually exhaust all of the Coverdale grant monies. So ideally, there will be no money to return to the feds on this grant.
And did we receive another grant in 2019, or is it expected?
We're waiting for the award.
Okay, any other questions related to this item? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Councilman Miller. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved.
Thank you.
Moving on to exemptions, item number BC 2019-744, Department of Public Works, submitting an RP exemption on requisition 46662, which will result in an award recommendation to Johnson Controls Security Systems LLC in the amount not to exceed $1,395,016.20 for preventative HVAC and fire alarm security system maintenance services at various county buildings for the period October 1st, 2019 through September 30th, 2022.
Good morning, Matt Reimer with the Department of Public Works. This contract seeks consolidated HVAC and fire control system preventative and maintenance and repair services for various county facilities for a 3-year period at the not to exceed cost of $1,395,016.20. The facilities that this will cover is the Justice Center Complex, the old courthouse at 1 Lakeside, Courthouse Square, the Tower 2, formerly Cleveland Police Headquarters building, and the Juvenile Justice Center at 93rd and Quincy. This action is an exemption request for the corresponding council legislation that is anticipated for first reading on the 22nd council agenda for the actual award recommendation. And this approach for the exemption is through a Sourcewell government cooperative purchase agreement for these services. Clarification on contract dates in the item. These contract dates will be effective the date of approval. The October 1st wasn't anticipated back when the contract was submitted, so we'll work with Andrea and the clerk's office on those date changes. Previously, a little bit into our methodology, these services were sought through 4 different JCI contracts covering multiple buildings and different services. We're consolidating these 4 contracts into one Sourcewell Cooperative Purchase Agreement contract at a savings of approximately $27,828 over the 3-year period. That's a conservative estimate on savings because we've also increased scope on this contract by adding the former Cleveland Police Building, which comes at a cost of annually $35,000 and change. So we have roughly a $100+ thousand savings, apples to apples comparison on this contract consolidation. Happy to answer any of your questions.
Thank you. Any questions? Mr. McAleer?
Matt, if we're changing the start dates to the point in time when the contract gets approved, are we covered right now under any maintenance agreements, or what if something happens from October 1st to the period of time it gets approved?
Right, so we currently are in a gap since September 30th was when the previous 3-year contracts expired. We are not performing any services on these contracts for Johnson Control Services. We do have them for other contract services of other purposes. But we would be doing a separate contract action if we needed services during this gap period. We're currently monitoring those systems that they would monitor through our stationary engineers and our electronic technicians that are 24/7 in the Justice Center.
And will the 1.3 million be a set amount that we pay for maintenance, or is this we get billed every time we use the service?
It is based on a monthly service for the number of visits and the number of labor hours, but it is labor hour focused, so it is a set amount per month. But if we terminate services or if we don't use some of the material contingencies that are in there, it won't be. It'll be less than the 1.395 million.
Any other questions from anyone? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Mr. Chambers. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The item is approved.
Moving on to the consent agenda, item numbers BC 2019-745 through 751.
everybody will take a moment to review the items on the consent agenda.
There were questions that were posed by the council members for other business, non-voted. Item number 1, purchases processed. For requisition number 1926369, Public Works, how did the jail 2 kitchen hood inspection go? And also for requisition number 1926357, is this a new intercom for the jail?
Matt Reimer with the Department of Public Works. Apologies that we were unable to get the written response in time for the Board of Control meeting. We will follow up and provide that response in writing. With respect to the first one, item 1926369, the Jail 2 kitchen hood inspection, the period of performance, or the performance of that contract action was just last week, and we just got the updated output of that, and it went well. We have one follow-up repair action, and we'll follow up in writing on what the specifics of that were. With respect to 1926357, although this is in the Jail 1 building structure, this is not in the jail. This is for the Sheriff's Deputy Sex Offender Unit on the first floor of that building. This is just for their customer interface for the clients that they see in isolating the Sheriff's deputies from the clients at a check-in. And so it's a transactional intercom for their purposes.
Are there any other questions or comments? Mr. McAleer?
Matt, just one follow-up question from the hood inspection.
Hi.
Do you have an anticipation completion date for the repair?
For the entire scope of that, for the repair item?
Repair, yeah.
I will get back to you on that. I believe they just completed their scope on Friday, so that recommendation is fresh. So I'm sure we're going through our work order planning right now, and I'll get you an answer to that.
Thank you.
Okay.
Just Tom Pavich, Public Works, just to chime in. So we just gave notice to proceed on that repair. It was a less than $500 repair that we have a current department order for that material. So our guys can actually do the repair themselves. It was a blast fan for one of the hoods. It was $495. We have a DO, so it could be completed as soon as today or tomorrow. So we gave them a notice, I think at 9 a.m. this morning.
Tom, is that, there's a invoice for Johnson Controls, is that different than the
That is
exemption
different.
we just?
That is different. We did that as a factor authorized, if it's the one I'm looking at.
$4,200. Fire pump?
Yeah,
test?
so we did this as factor authorized, so they control the whole building system for the Justice Center. This is something that we require just as normal upkeep. They have to monitor the actual, the pumps that are in the system for the fire system that we have. They have to test them to make sure there's no leaks, make sure there's proper pressure. So it is done separately from any type of Johnson Controls contract.
Okay. Any other questions from anybody? Seeing none, I will make a motion to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second? Second by Mr. McAleer. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Any opposed? The consent agenda is approved. Is there any other business today?
Yes, we do. We have one mission critical item. It's from the medical examiner's office, recommending an award on requisition 47073 to Advantage Inc. in the amount not to exceed $2,360 for the repair of 2 Agilent gas chromatic mass spectrometer instruments. And it's for the period October 8th, 2019 through November 8th, 2019. And its funding source is utilizing the medical examiner's crime lab fund.
Hugh Shannon, Medical Examiner's Office. So we had repair needs in the drug chemistry laboratory on 2 of the gas chromatographs within a few days of each other.
Any questions? Do we have to make a motion to amend the agenda?
Yes, we do.
So I will move that we amend today's agenda to add this item. Is there a second? Second by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor of approval of adding to the agenda indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? How are there any questions, Mr. McAleer?
With this repair, do we not have a maintenance or repair contract for like we do for the other?
No. So the gas chromatographs are much older. They're beyond the maintenance and warranty stage. They're 15 years old. They're pretty reliable machines. We use them in drug chemistry and in toxicology. Toxicology, as I stated before, the liquid chromatographs and the X-Exactive allow us to see more and more. When drugs enter the bloodstream and are starting to break down, the molecules break down, they're smaller and smaller. When we get raw drugs from a crime scene, obviously those are much larger. Gas chromatographs are fine. So what we're doing is while we're replacing equipment in toxicology with these finer, more precise instruments, we're able to take those gas chromatographs out of tox and send them downstairs. They don't break down that often. To have a maintenance agreement on all the gas chromatographs we have would be fairly substantial. And the cost to repair them, most of the times we can repair them ourselves, and we do so. We take old machines, we scrap them for parts or have them on standby in case we need to do this. For the amount of times that we would call for maintenance, doesn't make a lot of sense to do it that way. Each one's about $50,000. It sounds like a large amount, but the LCs, the liquid chromatographs, run about $250,000, and the X-Exactive was about $450,000. So again, newer technology, much more expensive machines, makes a lot more sense to have maintenance on them at all times. The GCs we can generally handle on our own.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Hearing none, I will make a motion to approve the item. Is there a second? Second by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor of approval indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? The item is approved. Thank you.
Thank you.
Is that it for other business?
No, we would like to go back to the tabled item. Janelle Green has some additional information for the board.
Sorry, I was working, trying to get some things done. So I stepped out and talked to the client renewal manager from Rimini and told her our situation and your questions about if we needed to extend it beyond the 1 year. And they said that they are willing to work with us or whatever increments that we need, if we need additional 3 months, additional 6 months, or however that time frame is. They just asked that we do like a check-in within the next 6 to 8 months to see where we are and see what our needs are, and we can determine the renewal period at that point beyond this 1 year.
Okay.
But there is no movement on the 30-day clause.
No, we did try to do that. We initially tried to bring it forth with the 6 months. Unfortunately, that language the executive didn't agree with it, and so that company did require us, after we went back to them, they required us to have a 1 year. So we did try that, to have it sooner.
You know, to follow up, so they were willing to do a 6-month termination clause, but
Correct.
the administration was not?
Correct. They didn't like the language that we had at that point. So we went back to them and they said it's a year.
And they wouldn't agree to anything less than a year?
Correct.
Okay. It'll be tabled till next Monday, correct?
Okay.
Okay. Is there any public comment?
No other public comment?
So I would just like to say thank you, particularly to Andrea and the staff from OPD. You've done a tremendous job in the 4.5 years I've been sitting on this exciting board. And to get all the agendas together, all the detail, it's a very tiresome task to do. And I always appreciated all the help. You guys always gave me all the information I ever needed, so I just want to say thank you, and thank you to everybody here. Have a donut. I will make a motion to adjourn the meeting. Is there a second? second by Councilwoman Baker. All those in favor of adjournment indicate by saying aye. Aye. The meeting is adjourned. Thank you. Thank you.